First, I want to thank Congressman Kevin Brady, who's with us today, and also Congressman Bill Flores. Congressman Brady is a senior member of the House Ways and Means Committee, chair of the Health Subcommittee, a member of the Social Security Subcommittee. He's chair of the Joint Economic Subcommittee and leader of the Trade Subcommittee. Congressman Bill Flores is a member of the House Budget Committee, a member of the Natural Resources Committee, and a member of the Veteran Affairs Committee. And Congressman Flores has been very involved as well in the appropriations process. And we're privileged to have each of you here today. Congressman, we appreciate it. We've got you on a live feed and we can see you. Hopefully you can see us and hear us. You know, there's a lot of talk about how it's difficult for the state legislature sometimes to communicate with Washington. We just asked and you said yes. So we found it to be very easy, and we appreciate you facilitating that and being available for us. So first, Congressman Brady, my congressman here in the state of Texas, Congressional District 8, I wanted to get your feedback on sequestration and what you have found from the D.C. perspective on where we're headed.
Great. Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thanks very much for inviting us to be part of this discussion. I think you're wise to be looking at what are the impacts of some fairly modest savings here at the federal level, but as you know, so much of this is tied into services delivered in Texas as well. And so, one, thank you for having me as part of this discussion. I'm pleased to be joined by Bill Flores, who's a key Texan on the Budget Committee, really knows the numbers well in perspective. And then I understand Dan Mitchell-Cato will be joining you by video conference as well. And he's got even, I think, a broader perspective. Let me make a couple of key points. One, you may be asking yourself, what's all the fuss about? Because the savings in Washington, while they're fairly unique in the sense that they start to shrink a couple of key parts of the budget, they're still relatively small compared to the significant savings that you've had to identify and cut in the Texas budget over the last 2 years. In Washington, these savings that are the result of the last debt ceiling debate are the equivalent of asking a 500-pound person to lose 10 pounds. That's all we're asking the federal government to do. But these savings are important because they begin now. And they begin in the parts of the budget that we have the most control over, the discretionary area. Most of the budget is protected from these automatic savings. Important programs like Social Security, Medicaid, food stamps, Pell Grants, veterans care, children's health insurance, and welfare are all protected from what they call sequestration. One study that was done in Texas shows that only 18% of the grant funds that are coming back to Texas are impacted at all by these modest saving cuts. The design of these savings are about half in defense, half in non-defense, but the areas not related to our entitled programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. There have been, it's to tell the direct impact on Texas. There have been two estimates, one by the Texas House that identifies as the $66 billion of state grant funds coming your way over the next year, that only $1 billion of it may be impacted. Another study looking at the federal funds database shows an impact of about $400 million to Texas. There have been other estimates as well, but the point I want to make, it is difficult to know yet where these savings will impact Texas. Beyond the budget perspective, Texas's economy is extremely strong. The amount of economic growth in Texas, the lower unemployment rate, the rate of businesses locating in Texas, the job creation, clearly we have a much stronger economy at home in Texas than the rest of the country has. These savings cuts are the equivalent of 1/4 of 1% of the United States economy. Put it in perspective, imagine a football field these savings cuts impact on the overall economy is about the size of your shoe. So from that standpoint, not large at all. Where the impact is in Texas is within the aerospace and defense industry. Because Texas houses so many of our military and reserve, because our communities, especially in Dallas-Fort Worth area, are developing and manufacturing the weapons and technology that our military men and women depend upon, and there will be savings in those areas. That's the main concern related to our economy. Today, the House took a step, and it was a bipartisan effort to sort of change a little the design of those sequestration savings. And the bill that passed literally minutes ago by a very strong vote. In defense, it is leveled funding from last year. So the Pentagon will have the same amount of funding it had last year. Military pay is increased. We bumped up a small amount, additional dollars to operations and maintenance. We protected veterans care and treatment, in fact, added to that. But we provided some flexibility for the Pentagon to enter into multi-year contracts, which is very important to Texas because most of our defense manufacturing really relies on the certainty and the lower costs that come with us being able to buy more costly weapon systems on a multi-year basis. So that bill is headed to the Senate, and I'm sure they'll make some changes, but I think those will remain within it. I think that's critical to both our Texas economy and national security as a whole. Also included in the bill we just passed is a requirement that border security be fully staffed and remain so, that our federal prisons remain fully staffed and remain so going forward. And then we also provide some other flexibility so that our federal agencies, again, cannot take a punitive approach to these savings, where we're punishing, for example, the traveling public when the Federal Aviation Administration, spends more than our air traffic controllers and our local traffic centers on consultants, executive travel, and office supplies. Truth of the matter is, throughout the federal government, we waste too much money. We have to set priorities as Texas has. With that, Chairman Creighton, I'd like to either stop and take some questions from the committee members, or if you'd like to hear from Congressman Flores at this time from the Budget Committee perspective, either one's great.
Okay, members, do we have any questions for Congressman Brady? Okay, thank you very much, Congressman Brady. And